Hello, I'm just wondering if I'm not hearing any audio coming out of the Zoom, and I restarted Zoom. Just wondering if you haven't unmuted or if it's me.
Can you hear us now on Zoom?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Do you have any public comment that you'd like to make, Mr. Gladding?
No.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. For the record, we have one written public comment and one public comment that was made in person here at the council chambers. Do we have any additional public comments that we'd like to via Zoom?
The Women's Club of South Pasadena is partnering with the Huntington Hospital to have a blood drive on Monday, October 30th from 12 noon to 6:30 p.m. Go to womensclubsp.com. That's WOMANS clubsp.com. Click on the RSVP link for information. Call or text the phone number on that page to reserve a specific time. Walk-ins are welcome. The location is the Women's Club House at 1424 Fremont, across from the high school. You can save lives with a donation. All blood from this drive goes to Huntington Hospital, so it remains local to help our neighbors. Please donate. Please spread the word. Thank you.
Thank you. So now that is all the comments. Okay. Let's
Could with the public comment that was submitted, I know we can't take action on it, but having looked at the material, I'm wanting to see if we can agendize for a later meeting the issues that were raised. The one was the issue about invasive, non-native invasives and how to deal with them. I don't know what the answer is, but the issue got raised of, the way that's happening now is you do see the mustard all over the place, and can we deal with that and the other plants as well. And then the other issue I think that the commenter raised was around the possibility of one area being, I think, a planting area for some of the non-on-property trees for the project on Hanscom. And I thought both of those would be worthy of at least being brought back to the commission for consideration. Thank you. If that's agreed to, I guess I probably have to make a motion and suggest both of those and ask if the commission will agree to that. Those are good ideas. I'll make that motion.
Okay. Would anyone like to second it?
I'll second it.
All right.
So we have a motion. Are we able to make a motion during the public comment section?
Or is this the right time? It occurred to me that I probably need to make a motion to ask that to be agendized. Okay. Okay.
And yeah, and the chair and the vice chair can consider agendizing anything for the next meeting.
Thank you. All right, so we're on to our presentation for city electrification.
Good evening, commissioners. So tonight we have a brief presentation for you on an update on some of the city's electrification projects, mostly focused on vehicle electrification. We have a short presentation here for you. So the first project we're going to focus on is not exactly a electrification project, but it contributes to the city's ability to electrify. And we want to feature it here as part of the beginning of our presentation. So in 2019, the city did a upgrade of its compressed natural gas station. This was the first of several MSRC funded projects. The Mobile Source Reduction Committee, a part of South Coast Air Quality Management District, that partially funded this work. It included a upgrade to the CNG dispenser equipment, a new compressor unit, and then upgrades to the facility where this is located by the Arroyo. It's our CNG slash storage yard. So the benefits of this, well, I'll get into that in 1 second, but how this plays into our whole electrification portfolio of projects is that unfortunately, the technology for us to fully convert our fleet to electric is not quite there yet. We still have some heavy duty vehicles, which I'll get into. Some of them we can convert to electric vehicles, but others we cannot. And so for a cleaner fuel alternative where we cannot go electric, we recommend that the city council make purchases of compressed natural gas fueled vehicles. And so, for example, we'll be bringing an item before the council to purchase an asphalt truck, a truck that helps us patch areas of asphalt. That's not something that can, because of the energy usage and the high demand of that vehicle, it's not something that can be electrified. However, in a choice between a diesel truck with propane run accessories, we're going to recommend to procure a CNG truck with electric accessories. And so in this way, having a CNG fueling station inside the city that the city operates is beneficial for us to still utilize vehicles like this until we can replace them with electric vehicles. And so that's why we wanted to feature this particular project right at the front here. Next slide. A project we just finished up about a year ago was the purchase of a level 3 electric vehicle charging station and 2 electric vehicles, 2 Chevy Bolts. And so you can see us cutting the ribbon there. This was Mayor Cacciati at the time in that picture. And so we basically commissioned this level 3 charger. This is located inside the fire department lot. And we use this for city vehicles and also as a supplement for our police electrification project, which we'll talk about here too. And you probably see us, driving slowly around town with the 2 Chevy Bolts. Those are our city staff vehicles. And so what made this possible was other funding from the MSRC. It contributed $20,000 to the vehicle purchase and $30,000 to the electric vehicle charger, the level 3 charger. Next slide. And so our current project, also funded by MSRC, is the electrification of the police fleet, as well as some other components we'll talk about here tonight. So we've described this project in the past. This actually came to the commission. There's a recommendation to council that actually facilitated this project. So this includes our participation into Southern California Edison's Charge Ready program, where we are installing 19 devices, 34 ports total in the police, fire, and the city staff lot right behind this building. As I mentioned, this is part of Southern California Edison's Charge Ready program. So there is an enormous opportunity where Edison is providing the design and the construction of most of the project. The city is just responsible for purchasing the actual charging devices themselves and installing them. All of the underground electrical infrastructure, the transformer, switchgear, conduit, construction, design, it's all covered by SoCal Edison. We also received a $500,000 grant from MSRC to fund both the police patrol vehicles and the level 3 electric vehicle component of this project. And we are expecting to go to council in the very near future to accept that grant and then program it into the city's budget. Next slide. So this is just an overview. This may look familiar. This is an overview of the police electrification project. You could see City Hall here on the right, and then the parking lots to the north. On the left, we have the police lot. We're putting in 16 ports. That's a combination of dual chargers and single port chargers. In the fire lot next to the level 3 charger we showed you in the earlier frame, we have 4 chargers going in there. And then accessible to city staff and the public, the orange ones there, we have 14 charger ports that are going to be added into the city hall lot. And we'll also be adding a van accessible ADA spot for that, along with that project as well. Other aspects of that project include new Edison upgraded infrastructure, including the transformer and distribution pedestal there right in the center. For the actual charges that we're purchasing for this project, we recently got this purchase order approved by City Council. Are these charge point chargers? So they're dual port, so 2 people can use them at the same time. And the nice feature about these chargers, it allows us to self-brand them. They have a little spot on the top where we can put the South Pasadena logo, and they actually have a video screen, much like if you go to the gas station, you'll see kind of a video screen there that you can program with current events or news, and allows us to do the same thing for city materials on that screen. So the entire purchase for all of these chargers that you saw, plus the pedestal mounts, all of the gateway network infrastructure, the maintenance and networking plan that allows us to, basically receive payments, and these can interact with phones and credit cards. Cost is a $183,000 cost. That does not include the rebate that we get as part of the Edison program. So that is the city's only cost for this project, for the level 2 installation. As I said, Edison covers all the underground infrastructure and equipment that goes along with it, which is we expect in the hundreds of thousands of dollars range of a contribution. Next slide. So that's just a breakdown of the chargers there, are the charges of the chargers. Jump to the next slide here. And this is where we are in the process. So we've come all this way. We are past step 8A. So, we had gone through all this conceptual design work, brought the agreement to council. You see under B, we purchased the charging equipment. We developed the site design, and this is a complicated design. It's an actual, plan, construction drawing, specification. We did this with Edison. We did this in such a way that as we developed the design together, we actually worked with our building division to make sure it met all the electrical code requirements and ADA requirements ahead of time, so that when the project actually heads into construction, that permitting step 9A will be very fast, because we've actually already gotten all of the code requirements approved in the process already. For 8A, even ahead of time, we sought authorization from the city council for the city manager to grant easements for utilities, but that's another step we took ahead of time to also expedite this process, so that we actually were able to execute the grant really quick. We were actually able to grant the easement really quickly. So we're just about to move into the secure permits stage, and then right after that, we can start building things. The next project I'm going to talk to you about is kind of new. It's proposed. We've done some preliminary work on this. As we were talking to council about placing chargers in the city hall lots, we proposed placing chargers near the baseball fields down at the Arroyo. There was a concern about those chargers being susceptible to vandalism and having to be damaged and replaced. So we essentially scrapped that plan and we reconsidered it. And now what we're considering is putting chargers inside the CNG storage lot at the, this is near the tennis courts and near the dog park. And this will allow us to begin the transition of our heavy duty equipment vehicles from CNG or other types of gas into electric. So we would actually remove some of the CNG filling ports and that were like the slower, older technology CNG, while keeping the newer fast fill technology ports, and starting to add in electric vehicle chargers that are specifically designed for larger vehicles. So we already have electric buses as part of the Dial-A-Ride program. These would be used to charge those. As part of this program, in order to qualify it for it, the city has to commit to a 10-year plan in which they acquire more electric vehicles. And so our consideration was that we would be acquiring more buses over time to replace the gas ones. That may or may not be the case as the city sort of reconsiders its transit programs. But either way, either we're buying bus infrastructure or we're buying, public works vehicles, utility trucks, mechanics trucks, things like that, that can be now electric, given that, you can buy an F-150 electric vehicle and you can use it at a site like this. So we haven't brought this to council yet for authorization to move forward. But this is what we're working on right now as our next electrification project. Jump to the next slide here. You're all familiar with the project we brought before you to discuss the implementation of solar panels at City Hall. So this is an idea that we were kind of bouncing around for a long time. We talked about putting them on the roof. We talked about putting them in the parking lot there where the vehicle chargers are going to go. We talked about putting them over at Garfield Reservoir, which is a nice open flat reservoir. None of those places really met the criteria. It was either too difficult of an installation, or in the case of over at Garfield, fortunately, our power usage just isn't that high to warrant building out a whole bunch of solar panels. But actually the solution to put them across the street, and this was only realized by us seeking a regulatory exemption with Edison, that we could actually put the panels on one side of the street and then distribute the energy back to ourselves on the other side of the street. That's not something you can typically do. It's not like you can, put solar panels on a house you own on one parcel and then transfer to the one you own another parcel. So we're able to qualify for this regulatory exemption. And so now we are moving slowly forward with this project. This is part of the Clean Power Alliance Power Ready program, in which Clean Power Alliance, at no extra cost to us, just paying our normal energy rates, has selected 11 other sites at other cities, so 12 cities in total, in which they will hire a developer to basically lease this site from the city and develop these solar panels. We don't own the panels, but it's essentially an arrangement in which we are still paying for our Clean Power Alliance power, but it comes from across the street. So the advantage there is when the grid gets shut down and our normal clean power that we get from other clean power sources is far away, we will have our power generation source right across the street from us. And solar power, whenever it's available, usually during the day in Southern California, we can use it. And when it's not available, there's a backup battery system that we can draw from. And the backup battery system will handle the City Hall's critical loads for up to 4 hours. So that project is still in the development stage. Clean Power Alliance has issued a request for offers to developers. They've received responses. We assisted with that process by giving very intricate diagrams of all the electrical infrastructure at City Hall, as well as all the load that we need to support. And now they're going to go on a second, Clean Power Alliance is doing a second round with their developers to hopefully select a developer by the end of the year. Jump to the next slide. So most of what I just said is on this slide. The developers will construct, install, own, operate, and maintain the installation. We expect to sign a lease with that developer for 20 years. It doesn't prevent us from doing other things on the site as long as it doesn't impact the solar panels. Like if we wanted to install electric vehicle chargers, we could do so at this site. And then, like I said, we still pay the same rate and we get this 4 hours of a power supply for critical loads. jump to the next slide. Well, that's it for the electrification projects we want to highlight. I'm going to pass this back to Arpi, and then we can answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Ted. Okay, so not exactly electrification, but still goes with our no gas, so pass theme. Wanted to provide everyone a quick update on how our gas powered leaf blower ban is going. Our outreach and education efforts continue. We had our first ever mobile electric leaf blower demonstration in September. And what we did there is you can see those pictures up on the right there. We had the American Green Zone Alliance, AGZA, came out and actually drove around the city from like 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. And saw gardeners using gas-powered leaf blowers, pulled over and actually talked to them. So we figured this might be a more effective approach than having our demos at the park and waiting around for them to come to us. We thought, you know what, we need to go to them, go to their work sites. It was very successful. They talked to many gardeners, targeted some of the areas where we've been receiving many of the reports coming in. We had some gardeners who did not want to engage and speak with AGZA. And we also had many who were very interested, who have been saying like, yes, we know this is happening. We don't really know what to do. And, you know, we have been kind of avoiding it. And this was a great opportunity for them to say, okay, you know what you need to do. Here is the first step. And so we were able to catch them in action, show them an actual electric leaf blower. So the gardeners were able to test out at their work site the kind of equipment that is available and that they could use and get at with the available discount programs out there. So we do hope to have more demonstrations coming up, and we will let everybody know when the next one is scheduled. We're probably thinking sometime in the spring. Next up, we do have, there is a South Coast AQMD webinar on November 8th from 5:30 to 6:30, where they talk a lot about their lawn and garden exchange program. And so they'll walk through all of the steps and what you need to do in order to exchange your gas powered leaf blower and get a steep discount on an electric one. So you can sign up if you go to our city website, southpasadenaca.gov/environmental programs. There is a link there where you can click on it and sign up for the Zoom. We are in the middle of big enforcement efforts. So we're receiving reports coming in, like dozens coming in a day so far. We've had a total number of 320 complaints come in. This is since April of this year. Of those 320, we have been issuing written warnings, 252 courtesy warnings. We've been escalating them to notices of violation, to final notices, and we have even sent out about 5 citations at this point. So we are getting to that phase where the warnings are running out and we are beginning to issue citations. So we have witnessed a growing number of electric leaf blowers out there. However, we still have a very long way to go. We do recognize that. We know it's very frustrating, but we are working through the challenges of issuing those warnings and those fines and getting those gardeners to switch out. So our work continues, but we are seeing a little bit of progress and we are on our way. And I think that is all for our presentation on electrification. We're open to any questions if anybody has any.
I have some questions and comments on both. RP, you're up closer. So one, I think it was a great idea to go to the gardeners. I don't think when, we supported this. All of our inputs were about encouraging positivity, not putting anyone out of business. And I think that was a great way to really meet the gardeners at their level, explain to them, and give them an insight of how to do the process. Because I know in my experience on the streets with the gardeners I've encountered is they don't know where to start. And they don't have the time to go to a scheduled meeting on a different site. So I really appreciate the effort the city's taking to go to them. And yeah, I think we all know that it's a slow process. I think that when this ban went in place, a lot of people maybe thought it was kind of like the LA ban where it was there, but not really enforced at all. So the fact that we are sending out citations is a good sign. I like that we're giving a lot of grace period to make the change. And I'm just excited that the steps are actually being taken. So yay.
We have also seen that a lot of our surrounding cities are looking at us and they are also starting to take those steps. I know that the city of Glendale is starting their own ban on gas powered leaf blowers. So, it's that much more encouragement to the gardeners of like, hey, this is happening everywhere. It's just not here. So,
Yeah.
it's a slow process, but we're seeing progress.
But it's huge. You're tackling both ends. And the fact that they get to try out the equipment is also very encouraging, I'm sure, to them, because I'm sure there's a lot of fear based of, am I going to be able to get as many houses done as fast? And being able to actually experience the technology that it has come a long way. It's great. I hear more of the high pitch, less in sound now, which is yay, it's happy. But I also still hear the gas blowers in the area as well. So but I'm happy to see the progress with electrification. I did have some questions. It is something obviously near and dear since I've had an EV for a long time. I experienced the flux of how they are becoming more and more popular. Kind of leans to some of the questions I had when we were talking about the police fleet is how many of the existing that you proposed would be available to the public?
Sure. So there will be 14 ports that'll be available to the public, a combination of dual and single devices. But yeah, 14 ports.
So
in
it'll be
that
like
area.
7 charge point.
So it's
towers.
actually, there's 2 single and then, let's see, 6 dual, if that is what you're asking. But yes,
in all type 2. The type 3 is within the city lot.
Exactly. Yeah. So, there's 2 level 3s, EV Go own level 3s that are
Right.
across the street. We weren't able to bring enough power capacity into City Hall to feature a whole new set of level 3s. We're hoping as the electrical infrastructure starts to get upgraded over time, that'll be a possibility. But the demand between the charger we have there, the charger we're adding, and then all of these for the police, and then all these chargers, we're really sort of maxing out our condition
Okay.
at City Hall.
And when you're saying that there's plan in the future for more type 3, was that not at City Hall, or was I missing?
That is, so we're going to add a level 3 charger, which we're still trying to determine how much power that can take and how much Edison can bring in for us in the police slot.
Okay.
So there's a small one in the fire lot. It's actually 60 kilowatts. So if you're an electric vehicle charger, if you go to, let's say Tesla chargers can get you like 200, 300, these superchargers. The one in the fire lot's 60 kilowatts. So it's kind of like some of the, it's an older model that was purchased years back.
Right.
If you go to like a Electrify America station, they're typically between 50 and 150. So there's a whole range.
Yeah.
And
this will serve our police fleet, the type 2s?
the level 2s will both serve the police fleet as well as the level 3 that we're planning. Yeah.
Okay, so they'll do. And so my main concern is that, you know, it would be great for, as a city, for us to offer more charge points. They're very hard to come by. Since the demand is so much higher now that, you know, sales have kind of boomed for electric vehicles, which means, I mean, I just experienced it personally at hand, having a very limited range on mine and being dependent. I have to frequent a lot of the public chargers, and it's something that is a growing concern of people that have electric cars that do charge outside, is that a lot of them are damaged or in need of repair because they're used so much that the amount of frequency of them needing repair is high. And a perfect example is our own Type 3. They are very frequently down and in need of repair. So I have twofold worry. Obviously, I would love to have more Type 3 if possible to the public, or Type 2. But the ones that we do have available to the public, I would hope that whatever is private is enough to keep our police fleet charged, because I know that the use that is going to be burdened on the ones that are for public, there will be a lot down. Is there enough, do you think, that's private for our internal police fleet to keep them charged all the time?
Sure. So a lot of questions,
make
and
sense?
yes, yeah, let's try to break them down here. So yeah, we couldn't agree more about the availability of electric vehicle chargers. In fact, the ones that we're installing here will be the first city-owned publicly available chargers. I don't know what the uptime is for the EV Go's, but because they're controlled by EV Go and the city has really no ownership or
Yeah.
say in them, we can't really do much about it other than report when they're down. For these publicly owned level 2 chargers, the city will be responsible for them. We have a maintenance agreement that we've purchased with ChargePoint to make sure that they're up and running all the time. It's not something that we will personally maintain as at a staff level. It's part of our agreement with ChargePoint, so we're paying for that service to keep them up. As far as the police chargers, so they're publicly owned, but they're just not accessible to the public. The idea behind that is that the full array of level 2 chargers and the dedicated parking spots within that means that every time a police vehicle comes in, it's charging. And so for the majority of those vehicles, they can be charging, throughout the day. And we, in evaluating how this would work operationally, we feel that the majority of the charging will be done on the level 2 infrastructure. And with 16 chargers and 16 ports, and though we're leasing 20 cars, 10 of them are patrol and the remainder are administrative, there's already going to be a redundancy in place to fully cover more than necessary for the patrol vehicles on the level 2 array alone.
Okay.
Now, the addition of the level 3 charger is really just to have that opportunity and availability to charge quickly if we need to.
Yeah.
But certainly both from an operational perspective and a cost perspective, because charging at a level 3, as you know, as you charge level 3 is more expensive than a level 2 because of the electricity delivery rate. We're hoping that operationally that we use the level 3 charger when we need to, but primarily we can rely on those level 2 chargers.
Okay.
So with that said, understanding that the city does need more electric vehicle infrastructure, we think this is going to be a combination of both city-owned sites, privately owned sites, like developments putting in chargers, also charging business models like Tesla, like Electrify America. I'm leaving some out, they're going to be upset. But we know of projects that are developing or that are sort of in progress that will be within the city that might not necessarily be city owned, but will be available to the public for that charging infrastructure. And yeah, as you know, when you own an electric car,
you'll go to visit a
working
city
chargers are
charger.
hard to come by. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I know many residents in South Pasadena that I feel personally responsible for, because I've talked them into electric vehicles that are now driving all the way to Santa Anita Mall to have their charge, which takes business away from our small businesses. They would be charging here and doing their shopping during their charge time here if they had an option, but there aren't any right now, because those are always down. So knowing that the second phase that you spoke of is again another city lot not available to the public, it would be great if it was possible, if there are any type of incentives or grants that we can look into as a city to partner with other opportunities, like, the ACE lot. I know we were talking about at one time, or pavilions, or, but with the Electrify America is definitely one that is part of a free charge system with many of the car makers right
Mhm.
now, that it's not just Tesla, it's,
They offer
they offer
when you
for,
buy a new vehicle. Yeah.
yeah. So that would be a great one to look into, and could be another, incentive and support for our small businesses too, to bring more business to the area.
Yeah. Understood. Thank you.
Great. Those were my main questions and comments.
Yeah, I too think that the mobile demonstration is fantastic. I know there's a lot of people that probably never even knew that the ones were happening at Garfield Park, and this way you can meet more gardeners that are still not compliant. That said, I think one of the complaints I heard from a couple of gardeners was that it was challenging to go through the process of getting the rebate and getting the new blowers and the battery backups or battery packs and all that. And I'm just wondering if AQMD or no, AGSA or one of the, is it AGSA? Yeah. If they have any resources for that, if that's something that is available to gardeners, that it's basically a service where they help get them through the paperwork and apply for the rebate. And and then, maybe connect them with a retailer that can show them the options.
Yeah, so AGSA is our resource.
Yeah.
They have actually worked very closely with the California Core program in helping them develop that. And so they do have their connections with that program as well. So with these demonstrations and them going out to the gardeners, they are helping them, letting them know this is the next step. This is where you got to go. These are the materials you need. So AGSA is like our resource and the middleman between the program and the gardeners.
I just didn't know if they had, I knew that. I just didn't know if they had like a specific person who could act as somebody who would help the gardeners through the whole process from deciding which one to go with to submitting the paperwork and getting the rebate. Because I think a lot of it is just foreign concept to them, the whole rebate.
I know that they do have specific vendors that they might recommend that they know of that would carry the type of equipment that the gardeners are looking for. And they do have, and a lot of the vendors themselves are very informed and knowledgeable about the process as well. So they should be helping out. If
Okay.
anything, I'm always here to help as well. I don't mind making a few phone calls.
Yeah.
And we have
our other
Councilmember
resource
Katsiak,
here.
who can
No, thank
add
you,
to that
RP.
as
And
well.
staff is great. At every function we have, activity at the parks, they've got the dealerships out there, multiple dealerships. They've got B&M is a big one from Orange County. And they actually have sat down there with the gardeners, and 50, 25, 15, depending on the event, when we had 15 or 100 people, they sit down there. I've been down to the B&M facility. I've done a tour. I've watched the mechanics that work on the electric equipment and the gas equipment. They actually walk them through the process because they're getting the money. They're getting a rebate too. Not only them, but ACE has been out there and we've had multiple times.
I know that the gardener I spoke with who does a large percentage of my neighbors, he just said it was a really hard process for him and he had gone to the demonstration. So I don't know. I mean, I could have him tell me specifically, but I feel like it's a lot of
It is.
time
I
and
know.
effort and
Yeah, it is.
yeah.
Well, I think the snag that we've hit, I mean, I know when we were talking about this, when we were talking about supporting, was that the city can't actually recommend any of the dealers themselves. But you're saying they can recommend, or they can have a list maybe,
Well, they
or
can have their suggestions of, based on the equipment that they need, and the connections that they have. But I am also available if
Yeah.
the gardener, if you want to please pass along
Okay.
my contact information. I have also
yeah.
Okay.
personally reached out to a vendor to say, what's the status of so-and-so's application? And I've helped
Okay.
facilitate that as well.
Yeah.
So please do.
I
pass
think
on
it's
my
a little
contact
bit of
information.
just, it's a big investment and they're all nervous about buying the wrong one because if you
That's
go
why we
through-
have the demos.
I know, but I think a lot like
Yeah.
the mobile demo is great because I
Yeah.
think that a lot of them don't have the time to go to Garfield Park
We
in the
will-
middle of a work day that's already probably 10 hours. So
Yeah, we will continue to have
Okay.
those kinds of demos.
great. All right. Thank you.
I had a quick question on the reports of violation for
Mhm.
the gas-powered leaf blowers. How does it compare to the water numbers, reports of water misuse?
How does it compare?
Just wondering, how many complaints do you get of various types? Are we like doubling or 10 times the number of complaints you usually get, or
Do you mean folks who reference, who file, like who notify us?
He's wondering if it's
For
the same
the water
snitches for both.
So I get I see man, we get a lot of reports every day on leaf blowers. And we do have a group of community members out there who are very familiar with the reporting process. And so we do receive a lot of those reports with the water waste. Like, you mean like watering on the wrong day and like
yeah,
excessive watering and those kinds of reports?
household, yeah, on the water side.
I would say at the moment, maybe I'm receiving more leaf blower reports than the water reports.
Okay.
I do also get like a weekly report from a community member of a list of water violations. So we're receiving a lot of each, and we are dedicated to addressing all of those complaints.
I'm just trying to get a feeling for, how long it takes before someone shows up here and says, they're really upset with us. But, but it sounds like things are on the same level, and they're familiar with what the city wants, and they're, hopefully they're responding to it soon. So
Yes.
yeah.
Luckily we do have a very dedicated, hardworking, community improvement officer. He's the one who handles all of the leaf blower things coming in. So he is on top of it. We also have all of the water waste reports that come in. That goes to our water team. So luckily we don't have one unit that is drowning in all of those reports.
What about
we
the
have-
mosquitoes?
What's that?
Mosquitoes and standing water reports.
You could report that to vector control. If you could just Google SGV vector control, and they would be happy to come out and do an assessment for you for free. But yes, we've got a lot of folks working on a lot of things.
Right. Thank you.
I have a follow-up to that. Just curious if what the homeowners who've gotten these violations, what they've done to be compliant. Are they purchasing it themselves? Are they working with their gardener? Do you know?
That's a great question. I'm not exactly sure. I think for the most part, they kind of pass along that message to their gardeners and pass along the resources available to them, and the gardeners take care of it. But I can certainly talk to our community improvement officer and see if he has any insight on that.
And then I guess a comment to help along with that. I tried with my neighborhood watch program to see if we could collectively buy some for our block.
Okay.
They weren't interested. However, it doesn't mean that others wouldn't be, and maybe it's something that the Public Safety Commission or in general
Sure.
would want to look at sending out information through their neighborhood
Having the
program.
neighbor watch.
Because I do get a lot of all of my community updates through that. Any other comments, questions? And very exciting, all these electrification projects as well, Ted. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we are on to our discussion, our subcommittee on single-use plastics.
Do you want me to start off since I have the notebook? So our ad hoc committee on plastics reduction met a few weeks back, and we identified what we felt like were some very attainable goals, as well as some maybe midterm initiatives that we could look at and explore and hopefully achieve in the not so distant future, and then some more long-term ones. Our first thought was, just to really reinstate the plastic bag ban. And also, I don't think there's a lot of polystyrene or plastic straws being used within the city, but I definitely think that in conjunction with that, whatever we have in place, we should see how effective or how closely it's being adhered to. And then we also, this is happening in other jurisdictions, and I don't know if we have an actual ordinance or mandate yet, but for all takeout services, you have to opt in for utensils. And then finally, for the third lowest hanging fruit, was to require reusable utensils and plates, cups, etc., if they have sit-down service. So anytime you're sitting down in a restaurant, you shouldn't be given a plastic box of food with plastic utensils. They should be heading back towards reusables. And then in looking at the more midterm ones, we discussed the zero waste ordinances that some cities have passed for city properties. And Michelle, Commissioner Hammond, has a contact at Burbank that she's been in communication with, because they're working on a zero waste city events ordinance, as well as City of LA. And in fact, City of LA will be coming to our next meeting to present their ordinance to us. And this is all city properties, as well as farmers markets, and any city events, whether they're on city property or not. And then the fifth one we were talking about, the funding a pilot program for reusable containers that could be shared between businesses. And we've looked into, I think Rona, Commissioner Bortz has looked into a few of those, as well as we discovered that City of LA is funding a pilot program as well for that. And then some other longer term ones were looking at the possibility of artificial turf reduction. There seems to be a lot of people converting to that. And there's a lot of, not only personal health impacts, but groundwater, soils, and urban heat island. So that was something that just came up. It's also plastic. And then the final one was, and I don't know if this is so long-term or not, but plastic water bottles. And Commissioner Hammond or boards can talk to you more about that.
Well, our main thing was looking about attainable goals and you know, some of the things that people have already been looking at changing over in their personal lifestyle use. Like most people are bringing reusable shopping bags, and most people have reusable water bottles. And with the watering stations in town, that maybe that is something we can do. I know a lot of these bans usually focus on small businesses and restaurants in the community. And a lot of them still are, especially in South Pasadena, small businesses, and it's a big burden. And I feel like small individual water bottles is something that could be affected at the grocery stores, just like a plastic bag ban, and wouldn't be as much of an impact to individual households to sacrifice. So, and it would be an easy ban because um, there are other options for restaurants to have single-use water bottles that are not plastic now, that are not as big of a cost impact to them. So I thought it's something, you know, when you really look at things that are in non-recyclable plastic as a package, the grocery store is the hugest culprit. You know, it's most of the things that we buy there are wrapped or in plastic. So that's a simple step. It's localized to just one item, that if we can make that change, it can really open up the doors to maybe some other possible things that don't really impact small businesses.
So to follow up on what Amy was saying about the city of Los Angeles, they have started a micro grant program. So what that would do would help small to medium food service businesses. Let's see, what does it say? Yeah, so the micro grants to using single-use plastic or non-compostable foodware, you know, for their dine-in operations. So that would, you know, they come in, it's not only just money to do that, but it's kind of to help them with training and how to, you know, how to do a reusable foodware program. I think it's really super interesting. You know, it might be something that we could do, you know, if we have, you know, sort of with our kind of a rebate angle, you know, maybe do have micro grants to some of our smaller businesses. I did find a couple programs I thought were pretty interesting too. The city of New York has a company called Deliver Zero. So it's a food delivery service that you, when you order your food, you pay an additional $2 deposit on your containers. And then you have 6 weeks to schedule. You can either, you know, when you reorder again, just drop off the containers to the delivery person, or you schedule a pickup for the used containers. I thought that was super interesting. And just some other ones that I found. There's a place in San Francisco, also Dispatch Goods, that does a similar thing, only they do it like a membership. So you pay $20 for a membership, and then you get the reusable stuff, and your delivery person takes it back. And yeah, I don't know. I think those are, oh, another place, Just Salad, also is a company that you buy the reusable silicone bowl for your salad, and then you get $1 if you bring it back. You get $1 off your next meal. I'd like to look into. I know before pandemic, felt like the health department had where we could, you could, as a consumer, bring in your container to a business and just use your own container. And I think that's an interesting thing to look into and see if that's still what the status is. That still happening? Well, then, yeah.
You could still do that. They just cannot put it on their surface or wash it themselves, or
Yeah.
or they have to. It's actually, I think right now as it is they give it in another container because they're not allowed to touch your container as health code violation. So then you put it into your container yourself.
Oh.
So in essence, it ends up sometimes being delivered to you in a to-go container that you then pour into your container. So there's a lot of limiting factors for restaurants themselves of handling how they have to handle food. That doesn't work with some of these programs right now. And this is where I lean to, like, try not to put as much burden onto the restaurants because they have so many other factors involved in how food is handled to get their A rating too. So, but there are pilot programs. I know that I know Pasadena was working on one, and if we can get a collection or a small radius location where there's multiple 2 or 3 restaurants involved, then that could be something that's more successful because it's considered their packaging and a drop-off station involved. Or like how you said, independent surface that's accessible for people to use, like the equivalent of any type of to-go ordering. I don't know why I just drew a blank on all like Uber Eats or something, but it's a more sustainable option that they handle the packaging all themselves. But again, it's like it has to be participating restaurants if it's part of a grant program, which I think is still very interesting for us as a city to look into and to partner with businesses if there are any that are interested in being part of a pilot program. Yeah. I know when we had first talked about RP, I know the pre-pandemic sounds like an era ago, but we were talking about using one of these pilot programs and trying to initiate it with a farmer's market was one option that is like a concentrated area that how we could facilitate that. And again, the biggest issue that we have to conquer that would need the city's help is the sanitization of all the material to be able to reuse when it goes out of the restaurant's world into the public's hands. When it comes back, we need that buffer. So we had looked into it before, and I'm happy to meet with the city to get to talk about kind of where we ended and where we could pick up again. But if it's possible, that I think that would be a great market again to try.
So yeah, this was our list of things that we were discussing, and we'd love to hear the rest of our commissioners' feedback and see if there's anything we missed or anything that might be, another low-hanging fruit that we haven't discussed would particularly be interesting because obviously we want to shoot for the most attainable ones.
Thank you guys. This is great. Any comments, questions? You want to start?
I mean, yeah, I agree. It's great. I guess the question is just one of what are the things that we can, direct or suggest to the city that they do that we think can be done. And, I'm not sure from what you all have said, which ones are the ones we think we could do. But I mean, I think we should do as many of them as we think have a reasonable chance of succeeding or that we have resources.
I think that reinstating the existing bans would be great. Like, how do we go about making sure that that is executed? But then the other one was, we're going to have this presentation on a pre-existing ordinance that's the city of LA has established that I think, obviously whenever there's a precedent for something, it's easier if we can replicate it. So those are the two that I think are probably the easiest and quickest ones to go after. But I also think, like the sit down service as well. Well, the opt-in for the utensils is probably one of the easier ones, and then the ordinance, and then the sit down service.
I think RPD, I'm not sure if but don't we already have an opt-in for utensils? If I can remember from my restaurant. I know we did it, but we did a lot more voluntarily, but
Right. Yes. So for the takeout utensils and all of that, that is actually now I believe it's a state mandate. So we can move forward with a local ordinance and have that. But you might have noticed, like if you go to Starbucks or if you go to McDonald's or anything like that, you have those signs that say if you want the utensils, you have to ask for it. So they have that up because of that state mandate. But we can certainly take it a step further and make a local ordinance for that. And then push some education and some outreach on that, and just maybe follow up with our local businesses to ensure that they are actually following through and not automatically providing those single-use utensils.
yeah, I think our main concern was the ones that we do have in place, like plastic bags.
Yeah.
And styrofoam. One thing, noticing in our city is that since the pandemic, there was a lot of leniency with the pandemic, obviously, and a lot of the local businesses have stayed with it and haven't gone back.
Mhm.
So I think it's just a reminder of
Yeah.
our current
Yeah,
ban.
we
would
can
be great.
certainly do that. That is one is definitely a low hanging fruit, where it's like everything is already in place. It's just, we just need to, make sure everyone remembers that we still have that. So sure, maybe we can work with the chamber on that, and perhaps with our business license list, and push out some education on that. We can certainly do that.
I had a couple thoughts. Thanks, you guys. This was great. They're kind of weird. So one thought I had was that I think it's great if we can involve the chamber in certain ways. So, Commissioner Hammond, you mentioned that a lot of these ordinances end up coming down really hard on the local small restaurants, and we don't necessarily want to do that. So I wondered if we could ask the chamber to sort of, and maybe work with them to do sort of a local business poll about like what would the cost be to move to like a compostable paper, for your takeout versus having plastic. Because it's also possible that, some businesses would make the switch, but they just don't, they don't actually know what the cost would be. And, we can kind of encourage behavior through an educational sort of and information gathering tool. And then my other question was, I wonder, I don't know where things are at with Athens and the organics and all of that, but I do feel like the farmers market presents a really interesting opportunity. And I wonder if we could work with Athens and our vendors at the farmers market to have sort of like, a collection of food and, your compostable paper container that you get it in. I don't know if Athens would help us pay for some of those for our vendors. It's probably crazy, but just some way to, because that's a really open space. You can see what everybody's, serving the food on. It's like, there's a real problem here with transparency, right? Like an enforcement. I don't know how all these different restaurants still, send out the food that they're sending out to people's homes and Uber Eats or DoorDash or whatever. But the farmers market's like a really good place for us to start to like make some progress potentially on that.
I can answer some of that. So I'm on the ad hoc because of the owning a restaurant before, that compostable, any of the environmental options are much more expensive than the disposable option. So it is a big risk. The other problem is that a lot of the compostable, quote unquote compostable, is a little bit of a greenwash item. They're not really composted. There's only, there's very limited resourcing and actually composting. They don't compost on their own in a compost pile. So not only are we then enforcing and asking these companies, small businesses to front the price of the increase to make us feel better, but in essence, it's not that much of an environmental improvement. for the end source because we don't have the processing facilities to take them, nor does Athens process them that way. So it's a little bit, cart before the horse in that sense. And then I know with the disposing of organic waste for something in a public space like the farmer's market, until we get the commercial organic compost in place, we can't publicly compost or, have an organic waste separation of a sense of recycling regular and organics. Our public trash, the way that it's set up in the city, is just one can. So until that switches. Yeah. Well, when it switches, it will switch. I mean, that will be in place and we will use the public receptacles at the farmer's market. So that hopefully will be in place. And that was why we're suggesting like what we had, we're trying to work on before is that farmer's market's a great pilot program to do one of those reusable, reusable type of packaging. Because then if they're doing that, they're not also throwing out stuff into the garbage and putting it into the wrong bin. So that is a great place to start. And it's also managed by the Chamber of Commerce. Yeah. Well, it's like a one-stop shop. So it's definitely a great place to start our efforts. Noted.
So I'm guessing I'm a bit ignorant, but I'm wondering about the difference between like reduction versus zero waste. And so, a reusable plastic container is considered a good step, or is that, say, contrasting reusable plastic with reusable silicone containers? Like, is the goal to have the landfills not have as much material in them, or is it about the specific material?
A lot of the pilot programs that are being tried with grants are reusable plastic. It's 300 lives is better than one.
Right.
So it is a step in the right direction. I mean, ideally, obviously, it would be great if we could make a leap, but as you could see with some of the things that we're finding, it's a difficult process. So,
right.
And then we go over like a much difficult fight of doing, trying to mandate anything on something like a huge supermarket chain. But to completely wipe out single-use water bottles would be huge because you're not all, you're making the alternative is aluminum or a bigger water vessel that's then broken up later to smaller, forever reusable containers.
Right. Okay. That makes sense to me. Thanks.
Mhm.
Okay, so then what are the next steps? Do you guys need to go back and discuss some more before you'd like to recommend anything? Or would you like to recommend some things now and still go back and talk?
Well, I think this was just meant to be a discussion and get some of your feedback. I don't think that we're taking any action on anything tonight. However, we will be also, I think we're in sort of data collection time. So the next meeting we'll have Jennifer Pinkerton come from the city of LA, and she'll talk about their zero waste mandate for city properties and events. And then we'll probably, I'd say in the new year, have maybe some action items to bring forward.
And then, well, I guess RP, from your perspective, does that sounds like that would have to happen before March if we want to get anything budgeted? If any of these action items require budget?
Looks like Ted has an answer for you.
I guess one question I have is, do we need to create an action item to just reinforce what's existing, or is that just
No,
something?
I can go ahead and move forward
Okay.
with those ideas.
Okay. See, we got something accomplished.
Yeah.
Okay.
So on the budget question, I wanted to clarify. So, as this is kind of this process has evolved over the last year, but as the council sets its strategic plan and its directions for the things that it wants to accomplish. The commission's individual work plans are supposed to stem from that. So we kind of started to do that this year. That was when we realigned the work plans to start with the fiscal year, which are supposed to be in accordance with the strategic plan and in accordance with the budget. Now for NREC, on the current strategic plan is implementing the climate action plan, which is very broad and has lots of things. So the work plan that RP developed and the commission approved sort of touches on lots of different elements of the climate action plan. So in order to set up, new work items for the work plan for the coming year, they really should be in sync with the strategic plan and in sync with the city's budget. So yeah, around March, we'll have already started the budget process most likely. But you want to be maybe discussing the items that you feel should be on the work plan that align with the city's strategic plan, as early as now for the next few months to sort of make that process happen. And it was a little confusing. I don't know if this makes sense.
So we'd have to adjust or add it to our climate action plan to be considered to be.
You would want to reference things to the city council to see if they would be things that would be included in the strategic plan in order for them to be directed by the city council for this commission to take up with their work plan. If that makes sense. So it's designed in such a way that commissions aren't necessarily operating outside of the scope that the council would like the direction. Otherwise, it's kind of like a bunch of different directions. So there's many commissions, of course. Hopefully that helps.
Because I can't remember if this specifically is on the climate action plan.
I think
or-
we
or
do
not.
have. I know
But-
we have a.
It's on some plan.
It's in the green action plan, which I guess
do
is like
have-
a supplement. Right?
We have a chapter of reducing plastics in the Green Action Plan.
Right.
Um,
But then the green action plan is part of the strategic plan?
Not explicitly, no.
yeah, they're
Okay.
they're two separate plans.
Yeah.
But the
But
And
maybe
the-
it's a close enough type of thing, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, in this
and
situation. Yeah.
the initiatives for reducing plastic and the Green Action Plan and all of that, and maybe it might not be something that is on the commission's work plan or anything like that, but those are plans that our sustainability division always has on the radar, that we're always looking for opportunities to improve and cross things off those actions off those plans. So we're always going to be working on it. As far, I think this is more like what are the things that we're able to really, agendize and have part of the commission's work plan. That makes sense.
So would one of us say we were looking at a zero waste ordinance for the city? Would one of us need to bring that to council and discuss it with them before in a meeting or as a public comment, or how does that work? Or does our council liaison make it a priority?
Multiple pathways. So however it's addressed, whether it's a public comment, a comment to the commission liaison, at some point, the strategic plan is developed at the council in a public forum and the priorities are set. And then the commissions are given their directions, their work plans based on that priority. So it's a public discussion for months until it's developed. And then, so multiple pathways, however someone in the public feels comfortable communicating that to our council.
I would like to request our council members' presence at the next meeting then. Is it on your agenda?
Well, so I guess back to my question on if it's loosely part of the climate action plan, and the climate action plan is loosely part of our strategic plan, then as long as, so if it's already part of our strategic plan and we amongst this commission agree that this is an action we want to take and we make a recommendation, that recommendation would then go to council and I assume that there is some sort of part of the budget that already exists that may not be penciled exactly for this because it hadn't existed yet, but it is part of a bucket that the city could pull from that already exists. It doesn't have to be created in the next budget because it's
So
loosely part of the strategic plan already.
So it's a good question. This year, the city initiated what they called a zero-based budget, and so all of the activities that we were going to undertake were expected to be outlined in the budget. Now that's a difficult thing to transition into. So we generally have like a bucket of things, like we have a professional services line item, but that is largely dedicated to SB 1383 implementation, other aspects of RP sustainability and environmental programs that are already that are already a component of the council's direction. Like, for example, the water conservation program is something that the council adopts every year explicitly, gives a list, directs where the funds go. This commission contributes to that. So I don't have an exact answer for you. It's supposed to be somewhat organic, I guess, is how it develops. But at the end of the day, it really should be outlined in the commission's work plan, and we should have a line item dedicated to in the budget in order for us to do it. Otherwise, it can kind of, the scope creep can be, whatever.
So it kind of makes, so then it does make sense to kind of get this, whatever we whether it's this or anything else, it's best to get it out there March, April, so that it could be part of the following year's work plan, which is then becomes part of the budget.
Right, because we can basically build our budget based on what the expectation is for the year. And of course, there's surprises. Things happen to the year. We bring something to the commission that we have to bring because it comes up. But the expectation is that largely the commission's following a plan for the year that they're going to take on.
I think what we experience in, being involved in Commissioner Tom can attest to this, of being on commissions and involved in city things for, has it been over a decade? Is that many things have been in the works for many years, and anything through the city takes a long time to put actually into effect. And so these plans, if we're not stewarding them and helping them get into place and over prioritizing them with a new thing to suggest and start the green light, then effectively nothing ends up getting put into effect. So I think it is logical for us to look at the existing plan too, and unless there's something that is an opportunity that presents itself, like new funding, like or a change in qualification of funding, like what Tool is presenting for the Fremont Huntington, like something that has shifted in a matter of getting outside funding outside of our city, then that's completely seems justifiable. But to that point, like some of this stuff that we're talking about with plastics is just a ordinance. It's just writing it in. So it's not a huge budget unless there's a lot of enforcement with it, correct? So
plus there's a lot of legal review that
legal
goes with
time.
ordinance, and then there's multiple meetings because we have to do first reading, second reading, we have to do public notification. So it can be small, but there's an effort behind that.
But I think your suggestion of, I think we should review what the existing plan is, and think about this coming in for next year, work on enforcing back of what we already have in place, would be a responsible way to go.
Excellent. Thank you. And Ted, thank you. I know we covered this in the budget meeting a few months back, but it is very difficult to follow.
Of course, yeah.
Thank you guys. Nothing else? Anyone? All right, we look forward to the next steps. All right, on to our approval of minutes in your packet that some of you may have perused already. We'll give a minute and then take.
Before we move on to this item, can we open the floor for public comment? To
I'm
see if
sorry.
anybody on
Yes.
Zoom has a public comment for discussion item number 3, the plastic subcommittee led discussion. Do we have any comments via Zoom or in person? Last call for comments on Zoom for agenda item 3. Okay, no public comment. We can move on to item 4. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. All right. Now we will move on to the approval of the September 26th meeting. Any corrections or motions?
I'll move approval in a minute.
I'll second that.
Wonderful. So we have a motion by Commissioner Tom, and we have a second by Commissioner Hammond. I will now do a roll call. Chair Siegel,
Yes.
Vice Chair Husagan,
Yes.
Commissioner Bortz,
I will abstain. I was not there.
Commissioner Hammond,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Law,
Yes.
and Commissioner Tom.
Yes.
Wonderful. Our minutes pass with 6 yeas and 1 abstaining. Thank you.
All right, on to our city council liaison communications.
Mr. Chair, I have a lot of communications. You can cut me off wherever you want to, and I'm only going to do half of them. But I'm sorry I missed a meeting last month. I was in on business for the AQMD in Denmark and Holland. Let's checking out some of the largest marine vessel engine manufacturers in the world. As we're trying to develop a rule for the ports or an MOU, we're trying to push them and clean up better. We're trying to determine what actually technology exists out there among ocean-going vessels, which are becoming the largest source of pollution in the basin, getting close to surpass heavy-duty trucks as those get cleaned up and we electrify those. So they will meet with environmental officials at the state, local, regional level, talk about their efforts, and meet with the port officials at the largest port in Europe, to be the largest port in the world no longer, in Rotterdam, about 30 kilometers long. They've got Shell, they've got ExxonMobil there, and see what they're doing in some of their port terminals, and the operations, electrification. They're actually behind us. They're actually behind the Port of Long Beach by a couple of years. So Port of Long Beach at the Long Beach Container Terminal has one of the most advanced ports in the world for electrification autonomous vehicles. So we have to push them because they're still one of the largest sources. Not only that, but the cargo handling equipment, the ships park and idle. As they come in, they slow down, they sit off the coast. So we're working on that. As a result of that, I met the following week with the Pacific Merchant Shipping Association, which includes the largest shippers in the world, terminal operators, and the unions of longshore people. So I called a meeting. They wanted to meet, so I asked them to meet at our offices at AQMD with my executive staff and some of my consultants. It's about a 2-hour meeting. Got a little heated as we're going back and forth, but I try to encourage a spirit of collaborativeness. And they had some concerns about AQMD putting stricter rules on them, which may affect business and divert some of their traffic to either ports in Texas, Northern California, or even out to the East Coast. Savannah is a massive growing port. Even though we're still doing enormous record-breaking cargo, the percentage of the cargo we get has been dwindling. And again, they emphasize 1 in every so many jobs are in LA from us. 1 in every 450 jobs in the US is related to the ports and ships coming in. So very interesting as the AQMD considers a rule or MOU involving the ports. Also, a couple weeks before that, we're also considering another rule, another huge source of pollution besides trucks and things are the railroads. locomotives. So there's really no federal rules. EPA hasn't acted. CARB has tried some. They've been hit in court. AQMD tried some before we got on a board around 2005, 6, and 7. It was appealed, brought to the court. We lost at the Supreme Court. So it was preempted by federal law and federal statutes. So we've got to make a decision again where that's what I was listening to, actually a community meeting I pushed for last couple weeks ago at our board meeting, robust community input on, do we go for a memorandum of understanding, MOU with the railroads? Or do we go to indirect source rule like we do with warehouses, because it invites a lot of pollution into our basin? And like, unfortunately, the community, I'm trying to get some ideas from, they're like, no, we only want a rule. Well, if you've got a weak rule, but you've got a really strong MOU, there's a big difference what you can actually do. So the technology for locomotives, a couple of people said it's right. I haven't seen it. I've looked. We were actually funding some programs like we are. Proud to tell you, we're funding a multi-million-dollar with CARB program with Merchant Shipping Association, the largest. It's an Italian company. Them and a Chinese company, the largest shippers in the world. So we didn't get to see the ship, but it's being powered by a mix of diesel, water, and methanol. So we're trying to reduce the criteria of the diesel pollution with anything. And the engine manufacturer we talked to, they want to do it, but the shipbuilders don't want to go there. They want to use ammonia, which we're totally against. But the locomotives, we're working on that. We've met. I had the railroads come in, Union Pacific, Burlington Northern. Really, for the first time, they've expressed an interest to try to deal with this. So we're trying to get with these community meetings, get some ideas. What does the community want? What do you want us to ask for? I know what I want to ask for, but I want to hear from you. You want workforce development? You want all the cargo equipment? There's no actual real large long haul or intermediate haul, regional haul locomotive that's out there. I mean, we're trying to test hydrogen fuel cell. We've given money. We a couple of years ago for studies on technology to build a battery locomotive, and the two companies, one's applied for bankruptcy. The two companies are suing each other. It was supposed to be out this year. There's nothing. So it's going to be hard for me as an environmentalist to try to explain to the environmentalists there's no technology yet, even though you think there is. It's like with the trucks a couple of years ago. They first came out, they demanded this. I said, if you got one truck for testing, that's it. We're trying to get more electric trucks. So a lot of stuff going on that's going to impact you. These are the biggest sources of pollution in our basin. And especially the people who live immediately there, even us, because as they dump off the stuff, it goes onto trucks and other locomotives, like the one that just goes 2 miles south of us on Mission through Alhambra, where it's down a grade separation, and that goes all the way through the communities I represent besides South Pass, Alhambra, San Gabriel by the Mission, where it's been put underground, and then through Rosemead, San Gabriel, et cetera, out east. Other issues, I want to thank Ted and ARPI for their hard work and its electrification, lawn equipment and cars. I'm out there today. Again, I took several pictures today. Those 300 and some, I've probably sent in 35 or 40. I sent in 2 more violations today. As I was talking to your staff today, was Victor, and he's explaining, if you go on Garfield, you're going to see a huge LA County sanitation district with staff overseeing and permitting and watching the project of a sewer replacement project along Garfield all the way down to Alhambra. But as I'm there's somebody using a leaf blower, so I go and, because I knew what you're going to do, got the picture and sent it into staff. Whether it's Rite Aid, Wells Fargo Bank, Arco Station, I've sent it over probably 40 or 50. Sometimes I send in 7 at a time. We've had a problem with a couple of homeowners, let you know, in this project. The one across from me, my neighbor calls me every Saturday about between 12 and 12:30. It's a house that's leased on Garfield near Mill Road. And I've taken so many pictures, and this Saturday happened to be walking by, and there they were again with a leaf blower. This is my fourth call in, and the neighbors who every Saturday sends it to me is 3rd or 4th. We've sent it to the owners because it's a lease, but it gets bounced back because the owners change addresses. So I've asked for a meeting with city staff, the city attorney, city manager, and staff. How can we do this? This is just, neighbors are complaining now, and like you said, a lot of people have changed, but there's still some that haven't. Another big issue at AQMD, and you may have heard of this, but we didn't know about it till this year. This ethylene oxide is one of the most dangerous substances known to humankind, even more so or equal to the hydrofluoric acid we were dealing with at the Torrance refinery a couple years ago. And what we're finding out is that in warehouses, and we have a rule on it just to control it, but nobody's looked at it in years. So EPA is now looking at rules. The status Office of Emergency Health Hazard Assessment has looked at it and said, wait a second, we've got to develop some rules. This is 300 more times cancer causing and toxic than we ever thought. What they do is this ethylene oxide is used. Does anybody know? I never knew. I had no idea this existed. So we're doing 3 concurrent investigations in Vernon, Ontario, and Carson. It's used to sterilize over 50 to 70% of the medical devices in the United States. So if you got to get an operation on something, that's got to be sterilized. And I was just down in Anaheim last week 2 weeks ago at a convention of all the medical device operators. Didn't know there was such a convention, but these are billion-dollar industries. And they said, you've got to go through, we've got to work with FDA right now. We're looking at a rule. We've been working with these 3 because they're letting stuff in the air that's impacting schools and neighborhoods and the workers. 300 more times toxic than we knew a couple of years ago. And it's called blood cancers and stuff they've cited it for. So we're pushing for it. Environmentalists are kind of holding us back, saying maybe there's going to be a federal rule. So we're pushing forward. We're going to take some action, but we're working with FDA. We're working with these agencies. And I met with about 10 of the largest manufacturers at that conference. I said, you've got to push forward. We're going to move no matter what. But we're going to, if we close you down, it'll be temporary because we can't close you down because then there'll be operations will be detained for months. So it's a tough balancing act. If you might hear some stuff in the news about this, but we're making progress. We're demanding permanent total enclosures so it doesn't go into neighborhoods. We're debating on fence line monitoring, even beyond getting out, that we have monitors to protect the neighborhoods. And that's an issue. How often should they monitor? So we're negotiating that back and forth. Gold Line, I was at the meeting a few weeks ago. Again, that's on time, on budget, exciting things happening there. We're even pushing for internal law enforcement, take it away from sheriffs who are never there when I ride it. Probably you ride it, you never see them. And that'll open, it'll be ready. We're going to turn it over to Metro January, even earlier. We're on time, on budget. Stations are going up in all the cities, starting with, what starts with a G after Azusa? The city with a G? Glendora. Then it goes into San Dimas, then to beautiful Laverne, right within like 100 feet of the university, then in Pomona. And if we get $500, $700 million from the state, it's going to go to Claremont and all the way into Montclair. Tough news the other night at the council meeting. We talked about drones a little bit for the 4th of July show. I brought that with the second from the council. We had options there. All drones, a hybrid. I said, we can only do 25% drone after I saw the council kind of going away. 3-2 vote. I pushed for a hybrid, just could be 50-50 or 75%. You're polluting toxic fireworks, and let us put in 25% so we can start to transition. We lost 3-2. Councilmember Znaimer, Mayor Pro Tem Znaimer, and myself lost 3-2. We'll see if hopefully maybe bring it back. I don't know. One of the persons that voted against it has to bring it back, but I'm trying. So maybe if you have talk to one of the council members, the mayor that's voted it down. I don't know what's wrong. It just doesn't make sense. And Sheila's staff showed a great presentation, a beautiful drone show, and it's comparable in price. We're gonna have to spend more money this year because the high school is requiring now some type of cover for the burns that it caused by the fireworks last year. So I don't understand. Commissioner, in regard to your question about other charging stations in the city, for the last year or so, I've been working very closely with Tesla West Coast operations, not only in our city, but in all the cities in the San Gabriel Valley, encouraging them to put in Tesla chargers and having many meetings. I think Tes might have been in a couple of those. So we are going to get chargers here. We're in a process right now. As a result of those meetings, I initiated with Vaughn's Plaza, which won't be Vaughn's Plaza much longer. And the only delay on that was they were waiting. First, it was Amazon Fresh that backed out. They were negotiating that they could allow this with the lease, these Tesla chargers, because it takes up from 8 to 20 some stations. When the new lessee came in and we were on the phone back and forth, and I pushed, like you said, I was in West Covina a couple of months ago at the opening of their new station there. And some of the people just don't get it that the owner that shop is going to get 21 new shoppers in every 30 minutes. Not everyone will go buy something, but a majority will. So this new owner saw it and he's on board. It's right now in our planning department, going through planning. Takes a long time. Tesla pays everything. City owner pays zero. They would charge high rates, as we know, but it's going to be exciting. Probably in a year or so it'll be open. I'm available for any questions, Mr. Chair.
My only question is there anything else other than just Tesla for that?
There's many.
Tesla, you know, there aren't really adapters that other cars can use from Tesla.
There are
There are.
adapters now. You can
There are
get.
adapters now.
Yeah. Other vendors, and they're trying to work with General Motors, as you know. I mean, there's a lot of flux right now in the standard. Ted, you want to go ahead? Super. That one I didn't know about. Great.
That's great.
Yeah. It took a while to get these two in there. I fought for many years. I mean, I want to thank you all again, because years ago, there was never this support on the council or in our commissions. And our staff now has changed dramatically, and they're really supportive and doing incredible work in this. But I tell you, living here in 2001 in the council, there was one or two voices, and it was just took years to get those two stations in. And they're working, but they're down a lot. But they are working. There are a lot of people that are charging there.
It's better than nothing.
Better than nothing. No, I go there, and you can charge it basically, as I've tested, as Ted said, it's 60, 70 volts in here. I wanted to make sure that it worked for the police, so I took my Kia EV6 in there, which is very comparable to the Tesla Model 3 or Y. It might charge a little faster. So I put it at 50%, went in and see how much I could charge in 30 minutes. I figured the duty cycle, Tony told me, Sergeant Abdallah, they're going to go in, they're going to go to the bathroom, they're going to eat a little snack, they're going to write their report, they're going to go back out 30 minutes. It got up to almost 90% in those 30 minutes. So went from 50 to almost 90. Then it starts to slow, as you know, as you get that high. So it's workable. God bless you. Thanks.
No, I have a question.
Commissioner, sorry.
When you're in the Netherlands,
Yeah.
Can you talk about what your main mode of transport was?
Oh, Commissioner, you know, I was so impressed. I dreamed of this in South Pasadena. We even took we took a break to take a tour with an environmental organization through Copenhagen to see the ports, I don't know, everything else. And you would go by large apartment buildings, 4 or 5 stories with 6 or 7 cars and like 2,000 bikes parked outside. And it was people who had a lot of breaks. We took a 3-hour tour of the city. It was unbelievable, but they didn't always have it. They told me I wanted to know the history. So I talked to the people that took us on a tour, and then I talked to the locals. And in the 90s, they had to fight for this. It wasn't always like that. A mayor, a council that was on board. There was pushback, but over those 30 some years, they got it. And the same in Rotterdam, which is the largest port, same thing. After World War II and destruction, they rebuilt the city with a purpose. And it's just encouraging. What you guys are trying to do, we're trying to do, they've done. Took a long time though, they said. I said, no, it didn't happen overnight. Yeah, it's
So you're
exciting.
saying it can be done.
Could be done. But the thing is, you're right. But it's got to be protected bike lanes. They're all protected bike lanes, and there's traffic, but very little traffic. And even, you know, I asked the driver, took his airport, his daughter, because across from the large shipping engine manufacturer was a school. We were concerned about the ammonia they were using. That's why we're arguing, because ammonia is really dangerous. But that's what the shipping manufacturers want. It reduces some pollution, but dangerous. I said, these little kids are like 6, 7 years old going out of this bike lane where these people are flying. I said, kids got to learn when they're young. They're from 6, probably 7 or 8. They're all the way up. I mean, everybody's going to work in a suit. It's my commissioner. It's incredible. I was so just encouraged.
Great to hear. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, on to Commissioner Communications. Do we want to start on that side?
I forgot to mention something early on, but there is a cool organization called Food Chain LA that is I don't know if anybody, I just found about this because my daughter's friend is volunteering for it, but it's a student-run organization that comes into our farmers market and collects food from the vendors and distributes it to smaller, community centers and other places, homeless shelters, I think. And yeah, anyways, I just thought that was just a really neat program that I hadn't known about.
What was it called?
It's called Food Chain LA, and it's run by students and volunteers, student volunteers. And that's it.
Is that something that South Pass students can volunteer for to get their
I-
volunteer hours?
That's a good, yes, I don't see why not. Food Chain LA is the name. And I think it is foodchainla.com, and go check it out. There's all sorts of, you can contact them to volunteer. Yeah.
Well, I have just one more community experience that I was part of, which was going to the meeting for the Fremont Fair Oaks and Huntington Drive Transportation Project. The follow-up on Thursday, and got to see the presentation after all the community input, and was very excited after after being in I've been able to ride around in other cities I visited, and same with my kids. They will ride bikes in other huge, bigger cities that are bigger than us, but they won't ride bikes here. And based on the plans that were shown for this, it was the dream come true. My kids, even though they're almost, one of them's already out, but the other one, he still comes back. They would be able to ride in the city, and there was a lot of enthusiasm in the crowd. Definitely, obviously, some concerns too, as people are a little fearful of change, but I think that this is the most encouraging thing I've seen in infrastructure change that also infects the environment greatly. As Councilman Cacciati was talking about emissions being a huge impact. This seems like it really has the wherewithal to reduce our emissions according to kind of our overall goals that we want to achieve. Because as I know we don't see a lot of cyclists on the streets, but there's a reason for that. And it's because not everyone's willing to risk their life to, reduce their emissions, or to, take a different mode of transportation. And we've been testing models with our group with, which I'm sure Mike will give updates on the ride to school days, that when there are chaperones, to try to make it safer, that the ridership has been increasing. It hasn't been going on for that long, and already there's, more than 70 riders in each of the rides that happen. So I think the overall community is wanting it. And if we can make these changes, it would make the city so much more livable, and such a great improvement, and many more trees. I'm excited. So that was a small one. And then the other one was that this weekend is where we do get a chance to ride safely. So, or to walk, or to roller skate, or to do anything, that it's a great opportunity this Sunday. I know it's always hard with anything in the holidays, because you're, just thinking about what costume you're going to put together. But now, put that costume together a day earlier and load yourself up and walk down the 110 and see me out there. I don't know. I know we were talking about, as a commission, some of the people that were going to attend of maybe wearing our shirts. I could quite possibly do that. Be willing to make a motion. But I'm excited to attend. I've been looking forward to this. I know, I was looking forward to it when it was going to happen, but then the pandemic shut it down. So excited it got brought back. And that is it.
I would like to echo the comments of Commissioner Hammond. The meetings with Tool were very exciting. And there were some disdainers, but for the most part, everyone is very excited. There's something in the air where I think people realize change needs to be made, not just from an environmental perspective, but from a quality of life perspective and many others, and that these changes would be one way to help get us there. So it is very exciting. And yes, the weekly bike bus to schools is doing very well. Each week it gets bigger and bigger. And this week we did have over 70 riders. And it's just pretty awesome to see the kids take over the street. And so I'm excited also for Sunday to see that happen again.
And your route would be a protected bike lane with this new proposal, correct? Or part of it, the Marengo?
I don't know. I don't remember. I'll have to look back at it, but it would be great.
I have no comments.
Well, I'm going to echo again. This great process that's underway with Tool Design Group, and I do feel like we heard a lot about how the basin, needs to have dramatic action to improve air quality and our climate impacts. But within the city, of course, like the majority contribution that all of us make to climate change is through our personal automobiles, and so redesigning our streets is really a prerequisite, I think, for having meaningful action locally. I would say there's some conversation in the context of this, how we invest our money in our streets that I think is a little misguided. So I've heard the comment made that congestion on our streets actually produces pollution and more carbon emissions. And I think it's actually false. And it might be misleading, I think, people when they're thinking about how we should invest our money. So it's based on this sort of simplistic idea. If you sort of take a snapshot view of a street and it's got lots of cars on it, they all have tailpipes that are emitting and there's lots of pollution there. But if they're moving along, there are fewer cars, when you just take a little snapshot view of the street. But what that totally ignores is what happens when you have no traffic on the street is that more cars come in, right? There's the whole induced demand phenomenon. And you can also just sort of falsify this argument just by recognizing that there have been many street widenings and expansions over the last 50, 80 years, and all of them have only made a larger contribution to our climate impact and the air pollution in the area. So I think we shouldn't be arguing that investing in faster streets is a solution to climate change. So I hope we can think about how to invest our money really effectively into helping people transition away from auto dependency. I look forward to hearing more about that in the future from this process. That's it. Thank you.
All right, moving on to staff.
Okay, so not too many updates, but I did want to also add that Royal Fest is on Sunday, so that starts at 7 a.m. We have the freeways open back up at 11 a.m., but the party continues on Mission Street up until 2 p.m. There's going to be a lot of family fun entertainment going on, so please join us and bring your family and enjoy the day. We have lots of flyers in the back as well if you want to pick it up, and more information on our city website as well. The only other update that I have for the commission was to give you all an update on the what's going on with the Athens negotiations. So we did take some options to council last week and presented everything that Athens has given us, and council has given staff direction to proceed with drafting a new agreement or an amendment to our existing agreement, where we would keep the terms of our current contract the same, and we would just be accommodating the new things for SB 1383. So that means keeping the term the same, keeping our same backyard service, and so on. So next step is for staff in Athens to work on drafting an agreement with our city attorney as well, and we'll be bringing that back to council at a future date, hopefully sooner rather than later. We do have to have 1383 implemented soon, so progress is being made on that front. That's all for my communications.
it does not have any comments. Oh, I feel like you have. Okay. Okay. I understand. Thank you.
Actually, can you talk about the mulch giveaway that's coming up?
We have a compost and mulch giveaway coming up. It's our annual one. We usually have it the third Saturday of October, but because we have Arroyo Fest, we want to make sure we don't overburden the weekend with so much fun stuff. We want to spread it out. So it'll be the following Saturday on November 4th at 9 a.m. Meet us at the Arroyo Golf Course parking lot. Bring a shovel and a container, and we've got some beautiful organic compost for you and your beautiful garden, and some mulch from city operations. Come on by. The next one after this will be in the spring, so it's going to be a few months till the next one, so don't miss it.
Thank you. And with that, our upcoming events, many have been mentioned, as well as we have our normal webinars for smart gardening and turf removal. And with that, I will adjourn this meeting at 8:56. Thank you.